Yay, it's Tuesday, my very favorite day of the week because I get to spend it with you. And I came across this article and I thought, how interesting this is. Because with everything, there's good and there's bad. But Neuralink, which is Elon Musk's brainchild, so to speak, their Neuralink brain chip lets a monkey see what isn't there, which I think is really interesting. Now, they're touting it as it's really going to be helping people that have, that can't see or this or that. And really, there are good things to it. If you can't walk, maybe it'll help you walk, it'll help you see, etc. So I can see good things, but I can also see the opposite. Because if this brain chip, and there are people that have volunteered to implant it, and right now this is not approved for humans. However, if you volunteer, it doesn't need to be approved for humans. But I think it's really interesting that they think that it's a good thing that they can manipulate a monkey to see something that isn't there, which means if they implant the brain chips into our brains, well, what is that going to mean for conscious control? What is that really even going to mean for the very fabric of reality? We're inside of the matrix. Red pill, blue pill. Which way are you going to be happy? But I can tell you, I don't want anybody else telling me how to think, what I should see, right? I want reality. That's what I want. My nickname years ago was Data Gal, although Jacqueline doesn't like that very much. I know she doesn't like that nickname, but I actually kind of feel honored by it because I want to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig until I understand what's happening. And then I can formulate my own opinion. With this surveillance economy, if all of your wealth automatically goes into a bank account because it's digital, it doesn't really exist, you can't hold it, therefore you don't own it, and they have the chips that can really track what you're thinking and then also suggest what you might see, right? Manipulate you into seeing what they want you to see. Right now they do it and it's called nudging, right? And they do it in many different ways. They do it it was interesting because not that long ago, somebody was interviewing me and he called me a gold bug. And hey, I'm used to that. I'm sure all of you are used to that. But it's really a derogatory thing to call somebody a bug. In that same interview, I turned around and said, well, okay, but you're a stock snake. And he got so insulted. But that's the way they do it, right? They make the conspiracy theories. There's so many things that inside of a conspiracy theory that are absolutely accurate. And so we're being told, no, you can't believe that. Well, what if they implant something in your brain or your hand or anywhere else in your body? And now all of a sudden you're seeing and thinking what they want you to see and think. That's control. I could tell you for myself, I guess I can't guarantee the future, but I can never imagine myself agreeing to have something like that put into my body. But that's the direction we're going in. I'd like your thoughts on it because I think it's significant. If machines can alter your perception, who gets to decide what's real? How much easier is it to control you? Kind of makes me think of that Wall-E movie that came out a while ago where everybody was just drinking milkshakes and being, moved around on conveyor belts and things like that. They lost all ability to think for themselves, to work, to physically move around. We all have a choice on what we want this future to look like. And we have to stand up for those choices. That's why what am I fighting for? I'm fighting for sound money back in the system because it forces governments to be fiscally responsible. And as long as it is redeemable, it puts the power back in the people. Everything else that we're looking at, and I'm not saying technology is bad. I'm not saying I want to go back to the Stone Age, but I'm seeing the lack of responsibility and the possibility of absolute manipulation. What's your stance going to be? Let's have this conversation. And I'm going to take questions, but I'm really hoping that I want to hear your thoughts on this particular topic too, because I think it's extraordinarily important for us to understand what is going on so that we can make educated choices that puts our best interest first. So Wolf asks, Lynette, if there's a silver shortage, why are prices still low? That's a great question, Wolf, and it's really simple to answer because the spot silver market is just a contract. And each contract, they're all different size contracts, but the typical contract controls 5,000 ounces of silver. So they can create as much digital silver as they want to suppress the price. So that's why. And I will also tell you something that I learned from my uncle a long time ago, and you've seen me do this, so I'm going to do it again. But when you have hard assets like gold and silver, and silver has broken out, but when you have hard assets like gold and silver, okay, gosh, I just forgot what I was going to say. Maybe I need the Neuralink. What was I going to say? Come on, help me out here, Josh. He goes, I don't have any idea what you were going to say. Oh, silver shortage. Okay. So that is one of the ways that they right today manipulate what you think. Oh, who wants that silver? It hasn't done anything. It's, if you're telling me it's worth $2,000 and it's trading, well, now at about 37 and change the last time I looked, right? That's ridiculous, Lynette. That's just crazy. No. That is perception management. And the spot markets were designed to keep you away from gold, keep you away from silver, and guess what? To keep you in the fiat markets. They don't want you in the physical world because they can't leverage it and they can't control it. So that's why it's just super easy for them to, and cheap, to create as much silver as they want to and manipulate the prices. But don't believe them. That's what this show is all about, is discovering the truth so that you get to make educated choices. And this is where I was going. My uncle always showed me that things go from undervalued to fairly valued to overvalued to fairly valued to undervalued. Where do you really want to buy it? You want to buy it somewhere in here. This is where you want to buy it. So that's what we're doing, because that's where we are on silver and on gold. Both. And Theodora asks, when will gold go parabolic? I'm not waiting for Wall Street to tell me how much gold or silver is worth. Gold will go parabolic and so will silver, but not as much as gold. When the government needs to regain your confidence, because that's when they do those overnight resets. So you get into position now, and then you've got the safest assets on the planet because you're holding it, and therefore you actually own it. Booty, hooty, Rudy, Manooty. You just go ahead, position into it, get your sound money strategy in place, but also remember, you can't really, you can barter with gold and silver, and that's great. And silver for me is mostly about barterability, but you can't actually eat it. I can bite it, but I can't eat it. So you need to make sure that you are as secure in your food, water, energy, security itself, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter as possible so that you can retain your freedom and your choice. Because once everything is in the system, And once they have a direct line, I mean, do they know how you think right now? Of course they do. You go in on the internet, you do searches, if you're using AI, you put in, well, I want to know about this, I want to know about that. I mean, they know everything that you're thinking and they nudge you to shop, right? There's always these ads popping up, and most of those ads are things that you either like to look at or buy, or you just talked about and your phone heard you, what have you. Or you just bought one and now the algorithms say you're going to buy more, whatever. So they're already manipulating you in that way. What if they had a direct link? How do you feel about that? And Patrick Seatube said, I started a group of like-minded people interested in knowing more about your philosophy and guidance of money. I call it the Zang Gang. I wanted you to know you are appreciated. Thank you, Patrick. Well, thank you. And actually, the Zang Gang, which can have an interesting connotation, but I'm the youngest of 7, and we did have a sign out in the front of our house that said the Zang Gang lives here. So that brings back a lot of memories, and thank you very much. And by the way, Patrick, if you need me or want me to come in and do a Zoom with your group, you just contact us. I think there's a link, and I would be very happy to support your efforts. Very, very happy. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate you too. And I appreciate all of you for being here, because the only thing that we have that we can't get back is our time. And I don't take that for granted, because I know how precious my time is, and I know how precious your time is. And Say Ray 316 says, Lynette, do you foresee the AI companies purchasing a silver mine in order to ensure they'll have the silver needed for their operations and products? Thank you. I see more private equity and private debt basically trying to take over the world. But yes, it would make all the sense in the world, because silver and gold are used in this technology. And it's a really good point that you bring up, because maybe they don't want you buying silver because they're busy buying it for their technology. But yes, I can definitely see that. Understand, wealth never disappears. It merely shifts location. And we can see technically things that are shifting. So yeah, it makes absolutely perfect sense for those that are dealing with energy, those that are dealing with a finite thing, which silver and gold, there's only so much of it anywhere in the world. Even if there's a new find, there's only a finite amount of it. It's one of the things that makes it rare and valuable, that and the fact that, yep, it's used in every single sector of the global economy. Great point. Thank you very much for that. And Colleen Allen asks, how does one send and insure a coin to a dealer when wishing to exchange silver for gold? UPS, FedEx, USPS? Well, USPS is typically, I don't do any of the shipping, so this question is probably better for like Emerald or Operations, but I do know that we use USPS quite a bit, because we can insure it, and it must come registered and insured. And when you pack it, you make sure that there is an inside of the box, and you can go to the post office and get these different size boxes, right? And make sure that you've got enough padding in there so that if somebody goes like this, they have no idea the coin or coins, whatever you've done inside of it, it doesn't move. And you don't have to declare what it is, just the value, which if you're sending it to us or whoever it is that you're sending it to, they should be able to give you the current market value. And don't scrimp on insurance. I've seen people do that, and honestly, they lose the gold, they lose the silver, and there's nothing we can do about it. On the other side of it, as long as it is sent, registered, and insured, I've also seen where it's been stolen, but because it's insured, you get that money back. Those coins get replaced like that. So it's very easy to do. And you also need to make sure that the person on the receiving end is aware that it's coming, so they're paying attention. You work hand in hand with them. So that's how you do it. And P. Nola asks, if I have purchased MS collectible coins from another source, can we sell them to Zang Enterprises? Yes, you can. That was really important to me that any of our wholesalers were willing to do that. It just takes a little longer because they need to verify that it is what they say that it is, but we can certainly give you an indication bid, and we log in where things are at that moment in time. And before you send them in for us to liquidate, though we can, the goal on the way out, whether it's this way or as we're executing the strategy, is to let you know when it's time to liquidate, but we want to capture the best gains for you. So if you didn't buy them from us, but you start working with us, we're going to put them all on your strategy. So number one, you know what their function is, right? And therefore how to use them. And number two, you get to execute the strategy with all of it. Because if you bought it somewhere else, and particularly wherever it fits into your strategy, you don't want to liquidate them too soon. You want to execute that strategy. So we will help you do that too. But the answer is yes, we can liquidate them, but the goal will be to keep the most amount in your pocket as possible. That's the goal. And Jerry Mandarin asks, how long can price suppression last on silver reality? Way longer than you would think, until it serves someone else's purpose, or there is a forced default in some of the bullion banks. And I do think that we have that in the pretty near future because of all the physical gold and silver that was shipped into this country, the beginning of the year, the end of last year. And we have not really seen the ramifications from that, but we will. So when there is a tight squeeze, there's going to be a force majeure. And we expect the bullion banks to, instead of somebody's going to stand for delivery, which means that they bought this contract and they say, okay, we want you to deliver the silver to us or the gold, whatever it was that contract was. And when they cannot do that, the bullion banks cannot do that, then they're going to want to pay you out in paper, and that makes everything more obvious. I do think that lies somewhere in our reasonably near future. A lot of that is going to depend on those that they took the physical metals from, demanding them back. So have a little patience, but they can suppress it longer than we would think possible, but you can only run with deficits for so long, whether that's in metals or debt or any of it, longer than you would think possible, but there is a limit. It doesn't go on forever. And Stephen Brewster asks, so Lynette, have you heard of Prophetic, which is rival to Neuralink? No, but I'll look at it. I mean, this stuff, I'm not going to lie, I can see the good in it. If you're blind and this gives you the ability to see, then obviously that is a good thing. But if it manipulates your perception of reality and takes control of your thought process, that's a really bad thing. I like to be an independent thinker. So no, I haven't, but I will look at it. They have a headband called Halo that purports to induce lucid dreams. Maybe it prods the prefrontal cortex in the brain. I'll look into that. I'll look into it.
I looked. I checked it out on Google.
Yeah.
And it says that the headband is designed to induce lucid dreams by targeting the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that's associated with self-awareness and decision-making, which is typically less active during normal dream states. And they're looking at introducing AI. So like when you're dreaming, AI can I don't know, manipulate your dreams, or you can create something that you want to dream about. The whole thing is like, I don't know.
Science fiction?
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about earlier. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. I think that we're messing
And that's
with
the
a power
problem.
greater than ourselves.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's part of the problem, because with this new technology, the government and everything, they allow it to just expand, and these corporations just to do lots and lots of experiments until the government can figure out how they might want to utilize it. So, but that's external, that does the internal, and the Neuralink is implanted in the brain, which bothers me a whole lot more, because then they can do it from a distance, right? If it's a headband, you're going to choose to put it on or not, though I could imagine they could make it very addictive, just like the videos and AI and all of this stuff that's online these days. And a bigger concern are the kids that are growing up with it, that really have no filter for it. So I'm just saying, I'm glad I'm old. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad I'm old. And I'll keep fighting this battle as long as I physically am on this planet and have the ability to do that. And I was saying that this morning. I go out and I run and walk with my dog, and and that's Daisy. That's not Daisy May. Daisy May passed, but that's Juliet, and she's a big dog. She's about 120 pounds. And sometimes she's kind of reactive to other dogs. So this morning when we were out, I saw somebody was walking two dogs, and I went, oh, crap. And so I went to hide with her behind a car to give them a chance to pass. And the person whose house I was in front of came out with their dog and was like, oh, go play with that dog. And I'm like, ah. And so my dog she wasn't upset. She wasn't trying to attack. Her tail was wagging. I think she was happy to meet that dog, but I wasn't so sure. And I think it's pretty good that I have the ability yet to control 120-pound squirming bunch of muscle, because that's what she was. So I'm here, I'm healthy, I'm in this for the long term, but yeah. Sandy Anderson asks, hi Lynette, can you please explain why you say all wars are bankers' wars? How do the bankers control the wars? Well, they control the wars by who controls the money. The banks. The banks issue the debt into existence, including the central banks. And so when governments want to go to war, they don't open their wallets and pull out the gold. There would be a whole lot less war when that is the case. And historically, when we were on the gold standard, what would happen when we go into war is they would confiscate the gold and then inflate the money away. And because in those times, central bankers had a charter, so that means a charter means that they were only legalized for a specified period of time, typically 15 to 20 years. Then the government could blame the hyperinflation on the banks. But the reason why all wars are bankers' wars is because that's who funds the wars and destroys the purchasing power. What was it? Rothschild, way back when, he said, I care not who, I don't even remember the quote. Can you pull that up? Rothschild's quotes on something like, I care not who's in office. I care about who controls the money. The bankers control the money. Although that's shifting. And we're going to be talking a lot more about that, although keeping in mind the banks are corporations, but there's a lot of transition. We're in a massive transition right now. And I think we're looking at technology companies as kind of being the new bankers. You make sure that you watch that. I haven't recorded it yet, but we're going to be talking about it. Do you have that quote?
Yeah, so the quote is, let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws. By Meyer Rothschild, founder of the Rothschild banking family.
Mm-hmm. So that's why. And Alex User asks, when are you coming to Europe? Well, I was supposed to come, but some plans had to change. I don't know, but I will be coming. I promise I will. I don't know exactly when, but when I do know, then I will let you know because I'll want to meet you. And are there more questions? Oh, yes. Douglas Tavis asks, the best pre-33 gold to buy in your opinion? Well, I really like any of it, and it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like for me, I like dynastic wealth, and so I want coins that I can pass down through the generations. But on the other side, I like my savings pre-33 coins too. This is just for my emergency gold. Then you have things like this, which is, I mean, they're rare because there's a finite amount of them, and a lot of them got melted down, but they're a higher population. So it's what's the best pre-33 gold to buy is the pre-33 gold that will support what you're trying to accomplish. That's what it is. That's why it's so important to call us, have that conversation with a strategy specialist. Let's establish your goals, and then they'll break it down, because you always want to be diversified in absolutely everything you do. What if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? But it's always the right tool for the job. That's where we go. And Lost Soul asks, pre-33 won't do you any good. Gold is gold. Melt it and sell it. Well, I'd say that your name suits you. And I would also say that you're right and you're wrong. Because at the end of and that's the point. Okay? Actually, that is the point of understanding the true value, that fundamental value, no matter what you're doing. What is it? Because that, my friend, is the only way for you to know if something is undervalued, fairly valued, or overvalued. Do I want to buy it? Do I want to hold it? Do I want to liquidate it? And in regards to the pre-33s versus the new gold, if I 100% know that the true fundamental value of an ounce of gold right now is somewhere in the vicinity of 40 grand, were they to do the overnight revaluation today. I also absolutely know that the only tool that they have left, is this. That's it. It's money printing. That's all they have left. And the more of that they do, the higher nominal in number terms that gold goes. So if you can buy a collectible coin way below that $40,000 fundamental value, the fees don't matter, do they? Because even if it lost all collectible value, yeah, still got the value of the gold. But this gold gives you additional protections that this gold does not, because this is monetary gold, which means they own it. It's their gold. This is collectible gold. So the guys that write the laws, this is what they own. Ron Paul, I mean, he's fantastic, and he definitely has been fighting this battle since the 70s, and he says this is the only kind of gold that he buys, and it's the only kind of gold that I buy. You know, other than this, if I need to show you an example. So you are right, Lost Soul. Any gold is gold. Don't melt it, because that's just, we actually did a little something today, which I don't know when we're going to publish. But Josh, would you ask Mimi to bring in that silver set, please? It's still on the table.
Yeah, I'll
and you'll see this again. I'm going to show you something, because that's a great question. We just did a little short on this earlier today, so I'm going to show you the difference, because you guys know gold and silver at their base is monetary regardless of the form. So we're going to come back to that when Mimi brings in the set, and then I'll show you. So we'll come back to that, Lost Soul. But thank you for that question, because it's really a great question. And I can't say that when I'll say 1GJ6, hyperinflation to really squeeze all the gold out of the people. Hyperinflation, gold will protect you. It's not going to squeeze the gold out of the people, because most people, especially in the U.S. and other countries like India, Vietnam, China, the Asian countries, they are more used to maintaining their purchasing power with gold. And a lot of the Indians, they wear their wealth with bangles and lots of jewelry, etc., because they know if you don't hold it, you don't own it. So the hyperinflation, unfortunately, I wish more people, and that's the battle, that's what I'm working toward, more people actually do hold and own gold. And what you want is a wholesale money strategy, so that as we're going through the hyperinflation, and understand, because this is part of the strategy too, the barterable part of your portfolio, so the fractional pieces, fractional means less than an ounce, you're going to use them up. The strategy, the way that it is structured, is designed in a full circle. So any fees, any costs, anything, right? You use that up. The whole purpose and point of the strategy is to make you whole. At the end of this cycle, that's the way it's designed, to recoup any fees, any taxes, any losses, any uses, anything. I worked on this for a lot of years. Really like 15 or so years it took me to really fully develop the strategy. And then I have a lot of smart people that are taking it even to a better level. So, yeah. And oh, sure. Okay, so Josh is going to go grab them, because I should have left them in here, but I didn't really think about it. And I think it's really important, so I'm really glad that you asked that question. And I'll answer the next one while Josh went to get it. Dylan Williams asked, "Hey, Lynette, how's the real estate market looking? I want to buy a house in a few years." In a few years, you could be in a very, very good position, because I think that it's become quite obvious that the real estate market is now going the opposite way. So, yep, you buy undervalued gold, and then when it flip-flops to the real estate, which has already begun, then you take some of this and you convert it into that. It's the whole point. It's one of the points. Okay, so I bought this set when I bought a whole bunch of scrap silver in 2020. Remember the silver shortage and the spiking and all of that? And it was, quite honestly, it was a bit challenging getting coins at that time, and especially since all the clients got the coins first. So I bought this huge box, sight unseen, of junk sterling silver. And when I got it home, I opened it up, and this set happened to be in there. So this is not junk silver. This is junk silver. And interestingly enough, we were looking at its current value for insurance purposes and stuff like that. So we pulled this up, and is there some way for you to show what you pulled up on the screen for this? Is that possible?
Not right now.
Okay.
If you wanted to pull it up on the laptop, we could screen share that, but...
Okay. Well, it's okay. And at any rate, it was somewhere between 25, depending upon what you were looking at, somewhere between 2,500 and 8,000, I think you said, for this set. And you're going like, wow, that's really good. Well, we weighed it out, and it weighs 29.9 ounces. Now, 2020, spot silver was not at 37.35, but we just used that number to see what the difference was, because really my junk silver, that's what that's about for me. You can typically buy it for spot somewhere around melt, blah, blah, blah. Cheap. What did we figure out that came to? No, it was 29.9 times $37.35. It was something like $1,000, wasn't it? Something like that. 37.35. I think that's where spot happened to be at the moment that we looked at it earlier today. I don't know where it is
so
right
it would
now.
have been $1,116.76.
Yep. So can you see the difference? And then you asked me, Josh asked me, well, why does anybody bother with this? Because that's a big question that people say, oh, who's going to want to buy these when they're at 40,000 or 50,000 or what have you? Wealthy people always want what only they can have. So yeah, I mean, the weight of this silver, which is really what I bought it for, just the weight. I mean, I didn't see that it was this gorgeous, but just the weight of it, yeah, it's about $1,000. But because of all of the detail in it, there are certainly people that would pay substantially more, somewhere between $2,500 and $8,000 right now. Keep in mind, though, the true fundamental value of an ounce of silver is about $2,000. Now, if you weigh that out, 29.9 ounces times 2,000, why would I liquidate it now? I wouldn't. And I probably won't liquidate it later. This is probably, because this is between 1815 and 1880 based on the markings. So this would be the kind of thing that I would definitely pass down to my children because they can always liquidate it. Always. 100% of the time, historically, you can always liquidate gold and silver. Why? Because it's used in every single sector of the global economy. So at any level, no matter what form it's in, it could be coin form, which is going to be less expensive, right? This is an ounce is probably about somewhere around $40, $41 for this ounce, right? Something like that. It can be in, because we looked at these chopsticks too, and they were going for just about a little bit, teeny weeny bit above spot, right? Something, what was it, like $90 or something like that? Because they were 2.2 ounces total, right? So it's a great question, but your supposition is erroneous. You need to accumulate it in all different forms depending upon what you're trying to accomplish. I would have absolutely zero problem clipping pieces of these chopsticks to buy stuff. I don't care about these. Do I want to clip this for that? No, I do not. So they're different, but people with money always want what only they can have, and they want the best of the best. You know, what's the difference between these two? Look at all the work that went into this. Very little work went into this. The value in this will grow because it is rare and collectible. This, it'll grow with spot, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I can say exactly the same thing about the coins. This raw coin, I don't know how much it is. You cannot hold me to this. But I would guess probably somewhere around $3,600, maybe $4,000, something like this. This coin, which is not even the most rare coin that I have, this is actually a more common coin that I have, probably somewhere around $5,000. What's the difference? In circulation, never been in circulation. More of these, fewer of these. It's not rocket science. It's just the way the markets work. And holding jewelry. So just Dylan, perfect strategy. Call us. We will help you with that because that's what we do. And Jerry Mandarin asks, holding jewelry a side guest option?
Side quest.
Okay, so
this is a reference to like video games where there's like a main story and then there's other side quests that you can do that kind of build out the lore of what you're doing. So like, although you're promoting coins and other things, like, is jewelry also an option to help get you there?
It is. It's got a bigger markup, and you see me wear jewelry all the time, and I do that specifically so that you can see all the different ways that you can hold this stuff. You know, I mean, dynastic wealth, and we'll definitely get into this more. But dynastic wealth, which is important to me, it may or may not be important to you, but that's the kind of wealth that lasts in families at least 300 years. And it has 3 legs, so it's kind of simple. Real estate, rare collectibles, which this would be in that category. This would totally be in that category, right? And gold, which would be like this. And arguably, this is the most important part of the leg, because with this, you can buy all of that other stuff. You can own a gold mine. Maybe I shouldn't say this, so I won't. But so yes, holding jewelry is absolutely a side quest option. Absolutely. And 1GJ6, how do you feel about copper? I think it'll have a place in the stack. It's very versatile. It is. It is not a monetary metal, so it's going to depend a lot more on what's happening with the economy, but there's a copper shortage as well. So if you've been accumulating change forever and you have a big bottle of it, check and see. Those coins, those pennies could very well be copper, and they have more value as copper, right? Now, the newer coins, which I don't have here, but I'll be showing you. Here's one. Okay. So if you happen to have a new quarter on you or dime, you're going to look at this band here, right? And they took the silver, like this is an old silver coin dated 1957. So it's 90% silver. So it's a quarter, it's not really a quarter of an ounce because it's 90%, but basically it's roughly a quarter of an ounce of silver. Same size, similar kind of everything. So when they made the transition and they took this away, you still had this. But if you look on the bands here, there's a copper core. It's not actually real copper anymore. Originally it was copper because that was less expensive, and then it was plated with a silver color metal. Today it's absolutely all base metal. But sure, you know, I mean, copper is going to move more with the economy. It's just not a monetary metal. It's more of an economic metal. Nothing wrong with stacking copper. Nothing wrong with that at all. I used to go down to my dad's sites because he was a developer and pick up all the scrap wiring, whittle off the plastic, take them to my Uncle Al, who was a junk dealer, sell it to him by weight, and then take that money over to my Uncle Al Uncle Allie here, Allie and Aunt Dan, Al and Bertie. So Uncle Al and Aunt Bertie, they were the antique people. Uncle Ali and Aunt Dan were the junk people, okay? So I would take the copper to my Uncle Allie and then go to my Uncle Al's and buy stuff. Worked well for me. But yes, I do think copper's fine. And Miramar, I can't afford gold anymore, but I did see a gorgeous 1860s 3-cent silver slabbed, Mint State 62 I can afford. Worth it? Thank you, Lynette. 1860s 3 cents, probably. Yeah, probably. Because that's definitely collectible. They're not making them anymore. And if it's a Mint State 62, it's got some blemish to it, but it's never been in circulation. So I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Plus, you know, that's going to have more collectible value than by weight, right? However, you're still buying it. This is the point that I want to make. You're buying it so far below its fundamental value. And I don't know what they're asking for that, but just think about it. You're actually buying it at the silver content weight, even though that would be a great piece. 1860, 3-cent silver. Yep. And Double Blue 65. Would you please remind me of your thoughts on the new technology that allows for saving gold, silver, like kinesis, purchasing fractional grams bit by bit to create savings and spend as needed? I absolutely do see a place for something like a kinesis or glint, which is another one, because you can take physical possession of the underlying gold. But I would not build my entire portfolio on that. That would be appropriate for the beginning line of defense. And it is a way to use gold for everyday purchases. So I'm as long as I can take possession of the gold. It's when you can't take possession of it. That's why I want redeemable gold in our money supply. Very, very, very important. So, yep. And S. Strauss 6752, I'm a long-time coin collector. What do you consider to be numismatic gold? Certified rare dates and mint marks, or certified high-level uncirculated grades, or both? Rare gold coins start at 10,000. It depends on what the rarity factor is. And so I'm going to go back to, what are you trying to accomplish? When we're working with clients, we also color code. We have stickers. And so we can color code all of the coins so that you know exactly what they're for. Yeah, a truly rare coin is going to start at $10,000. The fundamental value of gold is $40,000. Can you see how you can eat up any costs or fees associated with it, and why it's so critically important for you to understand that, right? So I wouldn't use a rare coin like that. That would be more of a dynastic wealth coin, one that I would own to pass down through the generations so that they always have money. This is definitely not at that level. Definitely not. But it's in the category, which is what I want. So this would be more used to maybe convert into income producing stocks or income producing rights or something like that when the time is right. The $10,000 coin would be more one that you would pass down through generations. And that's just what it happens to be right now. But that also goes back. I really cannot stress it enough. If you haven't watched that, recently I did a video, maybe we can put that link in there, on the difference between fundamental value and intrinsic value, because they want you to think that those are interchangeable, but they're really not. They manipulate the intrinsic value, which is market-based, versus the fundamental value, which is function-based. And so at the moment, yep, absolutely, market is going to be winning out. That's your opportunity to accumulate when you know that it's really, really, really undervalued. And I'm glad you've been a lifelong collector. That's awesome. And, if you need some help, maybe figuring out where all of your collections are, or if all of them are up at that level, then you already know that they're dynastic wealth coins. But if you need some help with other things, we're here to be of service, all of us. And lifelong learner lady, me too. When our clients of Zang Enterprises and execute our strategy, will our heirs be able to contact to learn the strategy, get educated, and what they should do with each form of silver gold they inherit? 100%. We are future-proofing this company. It's something I'm really proud of. And as we evolve, we have all age ranges. The youngest, I think, is 23, and the oldest is going to be 78. And all of the age ranges in between, so that we are here for your heirs, because you're going to need this. You're always going to need to understand what's happening. And also the younger people, they know a lot more about technology and how a lot of this stuff works. They're more comfortable with it. So yes, we are future-proofing our company. If at this point you need help, because we also, and I don't know where we are in that process, so that's where you hear my hesitation. But we'll prepare a book for you as well. So you've got the stickers, so you've got it organized in a book so that you know how to use it. But we're also future-proofing the company so that, yes, we can 100% help your heirs. 100%. And if they're ready for any education before that, we are super happy to do that. As however we can be of service, we are very happy to. And Jeff Garland asked, what happened to all of Uncle Al's gold? Well, he had 2 sons. So I'm glad because he loved them very much and he was close, but that's what happened to all of Uncle Al's gold. And Jeff Garland also asked, do we pay less taxes when selling pre-33 versus bullion? No, you do not. The kind of difference, and actually that's why the state work that we're doing to get gold and silver as legal tender, excuse me, as legal tender once again is so important, because that removes the state taxes. And once we get enough states involved in it, then that puts pressure on the federal government. There should not be any taxable event on gold. Actually, I don't know if we can do this in here, or maybe I'll do a piece on it, because Ron Paul was absolutely brilliant in front of the Arizona Senate. It is legalized here in Arizona, but he was brilliant in front of the Arizona Senate on that taxation on money. So if we can just put the link in, maybe, or should we do a piece on it? What would you like me to do? Let Josh know, he'll let me know, and then we'll make that happen. And Zephyrus Alive asked, I still think if gold is revalued, it will be around 80,000. Why do you only say it would be worth 40,000? That's at the moment. It could be 20 trillion by the time they actually do the revaluation. The 40,000 is based upon the global debt that they admit to through the IFF. Right? They tell you this is how much global debt there is. And the Department of the Interior runs a report on an annual basis as to how much gold is yet in the ground. And we know how much gold has been pulled up. So I get the 40,000 by taking all of the debt globally and dividing it by all of the gold, because gold is money. The fiat money, like in this country, dollars, but wherever you are in the world, that government declared money, that's the flip side to sound money. That's created by debt. So that's why I say at this moment in time, it's somewhere around 40,000, because I'm dividing all of the debt by all of the gold above ground as well as in ground. And that's what gives me that number. And that's also why I say the more of this they print and they create, when they do that overnight revaluation, the higher that number goes. And so in Venezuela, I don't know numbers, but it went up the first time they did the revaluation. Spot gold went up 3,500%. So do you see how you can buy your real estate? Because when that's happening, you've got real estate down here, and now gold is beginning to move to its fundamental value. So any fixed rate debt that you have, bam, you pay that off. What might take, 10 or 20 ounces now, might take a 20th of an ounce then. Right? So we do all of that calculation. We look at whatever you're holding in terms of fiat money, so stocks, bonds, ETFs, insurance policies, any of that stuff. And we make sure that you're properly diversified. We take a look at your property taxes and how much gold are you going to need to meet those property taxes in the future when we're in hyperinflation. How much gold do you need to pay off that mortgage? So probably because we're using the current fundamental value, not the market value. You're going to buy it at the market value. We're going to do our calculations on the fundamental value. But by the time they do those overnight revaluations and it's time to execute the strategy, and some of it, because it's not just one time and done, because we also need to accumulate wealth that can generate income for you that you cannot outlive. That's also a key, and that's not just a one and done. But paying off the fixed rate debt, That is, they do that overnight revaluation. You liquidate as much gold as you need to bam, pay off that mortgage or the car loan or whatever other fixed rate debt that you have. I mean, it's really a beautiful strategy, and it's just based upon all those things that happen 100% of the time. I mean, I can't guarantee that it's going to be the same, but I don't know if something's happened over 4,800 times and we're doing the same thing. Is this time different? Because that's what they always want you to think. I don't think it's different. I think we're going to get the same result. And that's a good thing if you understand what that is. And we will, by the way, help you fully understand the strategy. Because really what our goal is to meet you where you are and get you to where you want to go. And give you enough, this is entirely up to you, but give you enough education and the tools and the links so that you have the ability to make educated choices that puts your best interest first. And guess what? Maybe you come up with a different opinion than I have. I'm going to support your right to do that. 100% I'm going to support your right to do that. And Gen X 65 asks, thoughts on investing in foreign real estate in the tourism industry? In the future, I think that is a phenomenal idea. Gives you a reason to go travel, and you can make some money when you're not there because this is a global issue. So well, I guess it'll depend on how old I am and whether or not my children want to carry that on. But I intend to do that. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. And Jeff Garland, your strategy is to keep long-term loan and then pay off with reset. Doesn't this conflict with the great taking? Will they take your house before you can revalue gold to pay off? No, it falls exactly in line with the great taking because you have the tools to pay it off so they can't take it. You have the tools to pay those taxes so they can't take it. Most people are not prepared to do that. So actually it goes in line perfectly with the great taking. And it is designed to keep you in the driver's seat. You retain your freedom. You retain your choices. It's a beautiful thing. And Dylan Williams, and by the way, you should understand that the strategy is based on the research that I've been doing since 1987. And so I have read The Great Taking, and there's much in there that I agree with. And certainly it's a great book. If you haven't read it, get it, read it. But I will typically base all of my choices on the research really that I do. So, but no, this piece falls in line with that. If you have debt, that's how they can take it. You remember 2008 and what happened? Some people walked away from their homes, but those that made the choice not to were forced, not everybody. See, if you had your house paid off or you had the money to pay it off, then you did not lose your house as long as you can make your payments, right? So that's what the strategy is about, enabling you to maintain that. And Dylan Williams asks, do you guys sell that type of silver that's stuff at Zang Enterprises? Which type of silver? Do you mean this? Let Josh know. And the answer is no, not at this point. Do you want it? If it's that, but the answer is not at this time. I don't know whether that'll be true in the future or not, but not at this time. But the point of it is you might be sitting on a whole bunch of silver and have no idea that you are. Look at all this flatware. Now this is good stuff. This is just junk, right? It's just junk. And maybe you get lucky and get this in a box of it. And DeJames asks, hi, Lynette, what's stopping them from making gold illegal or just put an enormous tax on it, which is what they've done, Something tells me they're going to block every road people try to take to get out of this mess. That is exactly why I personally only buy this kind of gold. And it really boils down to, you're absolutely right. They have been robbing you your entire life. Really interesting exercise. Go into the Federal Reserve Education Department, the Fed, and put in purchasing power of the consumer dollar, and then put in your birth date, and you'll see how much they've been robbing you. And you're absolutely right. They have a huge tax. This is money, and they have a huge tax on it because they don't want you to buy it. However, having said that, monetary gold, which is what you can hold inside of an IRA. Collectible gold. Gold content, 21.7, I think. This one is a little bit more pure. What's the difference between the two? Monetary collectible. And I prefer the collectibles because I saw my Uncle Al holding at least 3,000 ounces when it was illegal to hold more than 5 ounces. Any other way, jewelry would be part of it. This would be part of that as well. Collectibles. It's a different category. And so you've got some coins. You want to talk about dynastic wealth? We were talking about this yesterday. And the one legal 1933 $20 gold St. Gaudens, it was just sold for, the last time it went up to auction, it was 18 point something million. And I believe it was just sold for 31 million. And when they first brought it out, because I remember this, I wasn't at the auction, but I remember when this happened, it was 8.5 million. So anybody that's going to pay $31 million is not going to be turning it in for eminent domain. In reality, governments can do anything they want. They can take anything they want, but they have to pay you fair value, and they easily manipulate the spot markets. So this is what I think it's going to look like. All right, let's say they decide to confiscate the gold when it's $5,000 an ounce. And they say, okay, we're going to do this big sweep of the IRAs, but don't worry about it because we're going to leave $7,000 an ounce. Well, most people not really understanding that that spot market is just a contract and a lie will go, well, wow, gold is only worth $5,000 and they're willing to pay me $7,000. Okie dokie, rock and roll hoochie coo. And so they do this big shift. They pay a premium because they want easy cooperation. And then after they get all the gold that they think they're going to be able to get, that's when they do that overnight revaluation. But with these, anybody that paid $31 million for a coin, they're not turning it in for $7,000. In fact, the person that can afford $31 million either writes the laws or has the ability to influence those that write the laws. They're not going to change the laws in that account. And that's why, for me, I want the kind of gold, because I also have had lots of people say, well, I just won't turn it in. They're not going door to door in this country. They did in India, I think it was 2016, when they demonetized something like 85% of their currency. But in this country, they're not going door to door. So people will say, well, I just won't turn it in. Okay. People didn't, too many people did, but back in 33, a lot of people didn't. They gave it to their kids to play with in the yard. People find cans of gold, all, different places, buried for 100 or more years. But I want the kind of gold that I can use in the normal marketplace, because I'm not buying gold just to accumulate gold. I'm buying gold to execute a strategy, to get out of this crap, fiat money, and get into sound money that cannot be inflated away. That's what sound money is. It requires fiscal responsibility, and the governments cannot inflate its value away. That's why it's called sound money. And Mithras asks, hi, Lynette, what's abundance of life and does it exist? Oh, wow. Yes, it does. And abundance can mean many different things. I feel like I have abundance, not just because I have a lot of gold, but I have a lot of love in my life. I mean, my children like to spend time with me. I consider that abundance. I have plenty to eat. I have plenty of water to drink. That's not true everywhere. That's abundance. I'm surrounded by a community that loves and respects me. That's abundance as well. So, abundance can mean a lot of different things. I'm able to travel. I'm able to do what I want to do. That's abundance, right? So how does it translate for you, Mithras? I'd be curious. And Deja Vu asks, will coin dealers draw a line at a base price paid for gold? We won't. No. It's market-based, right? You're always in at the market. You're also always out at the market. The way that we're structured is that we have the ability to hold our wholesalers' toes to the fire. No, it's supply and demand. That's why if you really want to know what's happening, you got to go to PCGS 3000 or PCGS in the ultra rarities, because it is only a physical market. So it's a true supply and demand dynamic, whereas the spot market, that's a whole bunch of contracts that, to a degree, absolutely control the market value of these, but it's a completely different beast. So no, coin dealers, I can't speak for everybody. Some are going to go out of business, but for us and the way we're set up, there will not be a line in that, because there will always be demand. There always is. And you look at places like Venezuela or Zimbabwe, where they've been going through hyperinflation since 2006, but 90% of the population is in abject poverty. I didn't say 100%. So those that aren't, what did Zimbabwe do a few years ago? They minted 1 ounce coins so that the public, goodness gracious, their hyperinflation's been going on for a really long time. But they issued 1 ounce gold coins so people could maintain their purchasing power. Who could afford that in Zimbabwe? Only the 1%. Only the 1%. So no, there won't be a line drawn on that either, because there's always a 1%. There's always people that have money, always. And Jeff Garland, I've been buying pre-33 coins at Mint State 64. I love Mint State 64. Is this better than pre-33 Mint State 60 if I only want to protect against confiscation? Wondering if premium is worth it. Well, the Mint State 60 is going to be more for pure asset protection. So that could be, I would say, and it depends on the rarity factor. So you can't really hold me absolute to this, because it's not an absolute. Just like that Mint State 62 3-cent silver dime, right? Or silver 3-cent piece from 1860. That was a Mint State 62. So I'm going to be general in here. You need to call us, then we can get specific, because you can have a super rare Mint State 62. So that would be even in a category for dynastic wealth, right? However, generally speaking, a Mint State 60 is pure asset protection. So that might be the kind of thing that you pay off your mortgage with. That might be the kind of thing that you that you set up for maybe a child's education. I mean, that's why we always start with your goals. But when you're looking at a Mint State 64, like I love Mint State 64 libs. In Saints, I'd rather have a 65 or a 66 if I'm wanting to buy, say, some income producing real estate, right? Higher population, with a higher quality level, mint state level. So there's no blanket answer for this. Are the premiums worth it? 100%, because of that rarity factor. And this is how I anticipate, because this is how it's worked in the past. So this is how I anticipate it working in the future. You go to an auction and there's 10 coins and there are 10 people at this auction and everybody wants one. Wherever the bidding opens, that's what everybody's going to pay, and they're all going to walk off happy. So there's your spot market. However, there's a rare coin in there and everybody wants it. So whoever is willing to pay the most gets it, but you still have 9 other people that want it. So when it becomes available again, just like that 63 or that 1933, first auction, 8.5 million. Another auction was like 18, and it wasn't that long ago, that other 18 point whatever auction. New auction, 31, over 31 million. So it's for different functions. I encourage you, Jeff, because you've been buying that, give us a call and let's talk about what you're trying to accomplish, and then we can help just guide you in the right direction, and then whatever you choose to do. But I love Mint State 64 libs. Love them. But that's not my whole portfolio either. I have lots of this because I have to make sure that I can always pay my staff. That's really, really important to me. So I have lots of this, and I have this because I'm going to want to convert it right down the road. Maybe I convert it into income producing stocks, dividend paying stocks when I see who survives this mess. Maybe I'll want to convert it into cryptocurrencies when I see who's going to survive this mess and it's after a reset. So it depends. And goji berries, very healthy for you. I actually have, I think, 2 goji berry bushes here and some up at the cabin. Sell your gold now and buy a house. Buy a car. The gold will go to zero and the cars will be made of gold, period. Well, you need to eat more goji berries because you need your brain to function more. What you just said, frankly, does not make any sense at all. A car is a diminishing asset. You go and buy a car as soon as you drive it off the lot. Is it ever going to regain that value? No, it will not. A house? Okay, the bubble has popped. We are witnessing prices implode. Is this the time to catch a falling knife? No, it is not. Gold, silver, severely undervalued. Is this the time to buy gold and silver? Yes, it is. You hold it. You own it outright. It is a true flight to safety asset. In fact, the whole world is looking at gold particularly being the only flight to safety asset. No longer is it treasuries. No longer is it dollars. No longer is it Swiss francs. Why? Because those are all diminishing assets. Every single time I show you a purchasing power chart, that's really what I'm showing you. These are diminishing assets. So you can do that. And if that's what you want to do, rock and roll hoochie coo. It's your life. You're going to be the one to either reap the rewards or suffer the consequences of any choices that you make. That's why I can't make any of the choices for you. I can make them for me, but you have to make them for you. That to me is not very bright. Eat more goji berries. A lot. And Jerry Mandarin says, can we have a message out the you don't need to be dead to enjoy the value of precious metals? Can we have the message out the you don't have to be, I'm not really sure exactly what you're asking, but I understand people wanting to hand over to their children. Oh, but that's dead essentially. Okay, now I got what you're saying. This is not, I'm not telling you to build 100% portfolio for legacy to leave for your children so that you don't get to enjoy it. part of the strategy, and that may not be important to you, which means that would not be the kind of thing that you should do if it is not important to you. That's just a little bit of the strategy, and it happens to be important to me, but we all have to make that choice. And I'm not going to judge you one way or the other. I guess I did kind of judge Goji Berry a little bit. I'm sorry about that, because I don't really want to be judgmental on anything. However, the strategy, most of the strategy is about buying gold now, allowing the markets to do what they're going to do anyway. The gold holds your purchasing power. So when those income producing assets go down to their fundamental value, you have purchasing power to convert into those other assets that then can generate income for you that you cannot outlive. So that's you enjoying it. That's making sure that, because no matter what happens, we're always going to need income to pay our bills, right? Pay our utilities, my food bills, whatever it is. So no, Jerry, I am not saying that you should, first of all, I'm not telling you you should do anything, but I'm not saying that this is all for the future, or for your heirs, and you're not supposed to utilize it. That is definitely not what I'm saying at all. In fact, you need to make sure that you are secure first, and that's the only way that you can really secure their future. For me personally, I always wanted babies. I always did, and I always wanted to build a legacy for them. It's just kind of the way that I'm built. Just like I'm trying to build a legacy for you by future-proofing Zang Enterprises so that we are always here to help you make educated choices. But ultimately, the choice is yours. The strategy is not set up purely to leave to your heirs, not even marginally so. But it is definitely designed for something you cannot outlive. Because when I first became a stockbroker, nobody ever talked about outliving your principal. Now, have you been to a broker lately? Well, you got enough money to last you till you're 82. And that's presuming there's no hyperinflation, because that'll be gone way earlier than that. So that's ridiculous. You're going to have need for income after you're 82. And how about income that you don't have to worry about whether or not it's coming in? Now, where your heirs may lie in that is in, and we would be talking about this in the future, what tools do you have to manage this income, right? Because if you're 93 years old and you buy an apartment building, you are not probably going to be able to maintain that. But maybe you have a couple of kids that can. So I'm just throwing these thoughts out there, but no, this isn't just designed to leave to your heirs. However, you generate that income the rest of your life, and when you're not here anymore, now your kids have that income and they have that asset. And if it's structured the right way, maybe you can structure it in a positive tax way. So there's a lot to it. Call us, we'll talk about it, and we'll help you come to conclusions that support what you want to do. And Tiger Stacker, hi Tiger Stacker, I use this all the time. Similar, redoing my death letter to my wife and subsequent video for YouTube. Can I put Zang Enterprises in the letter to get help and or sell to you when I die? Well, Tiger, I don't want to see you die, but yes, we are going to be around permanently. Why? I mean, my hope is that Zang Enterprises is there, and I figure I got another 30 years in me because I'm only 70 and I feel really good. I feel honestly probably about the best that I've ever felt in my life right now, to be honest with you. So, and I could control that 120-pound dog, and I'm going, good job, good job. But yes, but don't die. We're all going to die at some point. But yes, we're going to always be here to help. That's the goal. And DL Blue 65 asks, When we talk about the reset, we're talking about just the USA needing to revalue the foreign inventory in order to pay our debt. Yes? No. This is a global issue. The U.S. was the lead into it because as the world reserve currency, we went off the gold standard in 71, and then all of the other countries followed suit. With Switzerland, I'm pretty sure they did it in 1978, also off the gold standard. So even though we seem to be like basically the only country that publishes the purchasing power chart easily, you can always look to see that what's happening in the U.S. to the purchasing power is happening all around the world, And every single country has a gold revaluation account. So when we do this, just like we've experienced since 2008, synchronized global movements of central banks and some governments, I think this will be a synchronized move because whoever does it first, I mean, right now we're seeing one-offs like in Zimbabwe when they did that overnight revaluation of their new Zimbabwe gold currency, which I thought was really interesting. Okay, that was a one-off event because the currency wasn't really backed by gold. But this is a global issue, and I think, maybe I could be wrong, but I think that when we go through this reset, every single country will be going through it. I think it'll be a coordinated event. And all of the countries will trot out their gold revaluation accounts and do it. I think it'll be at the same time. I could be wrong. As long as you own gold wherever you live, you're going to be fine. And silver as well, both. And Alan Sutherland asked, how are you feeling now about Bitcoin and more specifically XRP? Alan, I'm actually going to I want to kind of put that question on hold for just a little minute because what I have not yet done, but I think that it's important for me to do it, is to show you why I feel the way I feel. I tell you, but I don't think I've ever put it in one video. So that's going to take me a minute to put together. So I'm not going to say I'm going to have that next week because I'm not. We were talking about it actually this morning, and I said that's probably going to take maybe a month-ish because I really want it to be good. So if you just hold that, Alan, we will be talking about that and how I feel about it and why. Because I've been watching it probably since 2010. Bitcoin was like $7 a coin when I first started watching it. So I'm not sure whether that was 2009 or 2010, so somewhere in there. And I know how they make these transitions from one monetary system into the next one. And they need to keep it looking as much the same as possible. And they need adoption. And I mean, look at JP Morgan, right? JP Morgan said, oh, Bitcoin is garbage. And now all of a sudden they're loaning money on Bitcoin. So what is that about? That's about gaining adoption. And I think it should be really clear it is not out of the system. And I also think that there are a lot of people that are in cryptocurrencies right now that are not necessarily about the original reasons, which was to be outside of the system, to be private and decentralized. We'll look at, I'm going to be going into this much more deeply if you just give me a minute to do it. But I can tell you what's decentralized. I can tell you what's private. I can tell you what actually holds value. And maybe, Alan, can you tell me? I think it's really interesting. Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, right? Why do they all look like gold coins? Could it be that they want you to think of them like this? But all they are derivatives. This is real. Do I think they're here to stay? 100%. 100%. I think they're here to stay. But what I don't know yet, I mean, certainly it looks like Bitcoin and XRP will be completely adopted into the system. But just like the Neuralink that we talked about earlier, I think it's all about surveillance and control. And I really wish I felt differently about it. I really do. But I'm going to commit to making that piece because I think it's important to make. And Deja Vu asks, Lynette, do you rely on the Red Book for coinage value as the best resource? Absolutely not. By the time they publish it, all of that is old. So where you can get a better sense of that would probably be like on PCGS or in Coin World. And then you'll see more kind of market values for them. You know, they're probably a little closer to wholesale value, but I'll give you an indication. So yeah, a Red Book is great for history and kind of seeing that history, but by the time they publish it, it's old news. So you need something that is definitely more current. And the wholesalers that we work with, you know, I mean, that's all market price, demand and supply. It's all market based. And Metalman Dan asks, is rarity out the window during SHTF? I know what you're asking me. Probably not, but maybe. That's why understanding the fundamental value matters. But think about this. If they take this away, because it's just a bullion coin, and all you have is this, how much more is this worth? So historically, the answer to that is no. That rarity factor always matters. Just like the metal value in this is at $1,000, but the current market, because of its rarity, no, you never get rid of that rarity factor. It could potentially become less important. But typically, no, you don't really ever lose that premium. Actually, what you see happening historically is that premium grows and grows because you have so few of them. That rarity factor, there's only so many. Just like that 1933, there's only one that's been legalized. One. $31 million for 1 ounce of gold. Just saying. And Zephyrus Alive asks, can you help procure specific coins? Yes, we absolutely can. So call us and let's discuss what you're looking for and let's see how we can help you. And Monkey Wrench asks, you need pre-33 gold coins? So do I need to sell my coins for that? So are you telling, look, you got to do whatever you're comfortable, regardless of what anybody says. So if you have a whole bunch of bullion gold, this is just an American Eagle, and you're married to that, why not diversify into that? So I don't know what your circumstances are. It's very easy to convert this into this. Maybe you don't need to do it with all of it. I mean, I don't know. Call us and have a conversation. At the end of the day, it's going to be your choice. And 100% of the time, you need to do what you are comfortable doing. If you are a bullion buyer and that's what you want, and I'm not really necessarily referring to the question, but that's really what you want, why not diversifying your portfolio? Do this mainly, but then diversify your portfolio into this as well so that if they confiscate, you don't care. If they don't confiscate, you got both. You bought both way below fundamental value. Booty hooty Rudy Manooty. It's not such a bad thing. And Stephen Brewster asks, gold and silver holds value, although silver is volatile. Does Lynette think an asset like rare guitars might be something to store to hold the value? Art, paintings, collectible rare guitars, gold, silver, all assets to hold value? Yes, and some do better than others depending upon where we are. But I mean, you see that piece behind me. I mean, somebody asked me about that, and silly me, because I wasn't there when my parents actually bought it, but they got that from Uncle Al. I can't tell you what they paid for it, but yes, because it's not the dollars that have value, it's the stuff that has value. And when you see things going up in terms of dollars, it's really the dollar going down in value. So yes, rare collectibles. But the advantage of doing the gold and the silver, because, I do all of it. The pictures behind me are collectibles. And they're not, I don't know how rare they are or how good they are. I just like them anyway. But they hold value, and some does it better than the others. The advantage of gold and silver is how severely undervalued it is, and the fact that I can't give you a lot of guarantees, but I can guarantee you that at some point they will go to their true fundamental value. They will. So you have that rarity factor, but you have that underlying support of gold, right? Because things go in and out of favor, right? Hence, undervaluation, fair valuation, overvaluation, fair valuation, undervaluation. If you have something good, it always has value. And I can also tell you for an absolute fact that after I got divorced, I had 2 small babies to raise by myself. And, I was struggling, and I was very grateful to have my antiques because I sold off a bunch of them. That's what helped us get us through that first hump, no doubt about it. And on some of it, all right, I lost a little money. Some of it I broke even on, and some of it I made money on. But the point is that they all held some level of value, right? Versus going to home goods like my daughters did originally. Silly them. I mean, I was blown away that they would go to home goods when they can go antiquing and get a much better piece and something that will hold its value. But okay, they've learned, right? So yes, art, good paintings, good collectibles, rare guitars, physical gold, physical silver, collectibles, all of those will hold the value, but gold and silver are a double whammy because they're also the primary and secondary currency metals. So you have the weight of the metal, even if, though this, I don't ever expect this to happen because that would not be historically accurate, but even if this lost all of its collectible value, I still got the weight of the silver. If this lost all of its collectible value, I still have the weight of the gold. And I know that in both of these cases, severely undervalued. Severely undervalued. And Mithras asks, if there is hunger, you have gold. I have food. My food beats your gold. That's true, but your food will go bad. So you will sell me some of your food for I wouldn't be doing it with gold. I would be doing it with silver. But that's also the point where I'm telling you to be as independent and self-sufficient as possible. I mean, 2008, I knew the system died then. And all of that quantitative easing and the Bitcoin and all of that, Bitcoin came out in January of 2009. Quantitative easing came out in March of 2009. But the NSA white paper on how to make a mint, how to create a new currency, that was in place with the 1996 NSA white paper. Someone I was talking to the other day was talking about that Bitcoin was actually developed in the 80s. I got to do some research on that because that's not what I found, but it doesn't mean it's not true. So I got to do some research on that. But what I can tell you is food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, because we just don't have the time and a lot of people don't have the resources, and shelter. You've got to make sure that as much as possible you have surety in all of those areas. I agree with you, Mithras. I can live without gold, but I can't live without food or water. So what are you doing for that security? That's when I became an urban farmer, because food becomes the single biggest issue for people in these transitions. And you don't have to look very far to see how many people hunger is growing all around the world. And it's not really necessary considering how much food actually gets thrown out. So you're 100% right. And that's why the whole mantra developed. If you come to Phoenix, you can get with one of the strategy specialists. They'll bring you here to see that that's how I live. And the bug out location, that's completely off grid. I did try and do that here. It was a big fat fail on the energy part. The rest of it, not. But, you've got to have security in everything. But I started that after 2008 because I knew the system died. Now we're at the very end of that, and I'm watching the system break down. And there has been in 22 a systemic shift in the bond market. That's not good. That's the foundation. There was a huge crack in the foundation, and now we are watching it crumble. We are watching it crumble. You got to get all of those. And that's why local community has become so critically important. Go to a farmer's market, get to know the people that grow your food. Give them some time. Go out. There's always something to do on a farm. Always. Get to know them, create that relationship. Go to a community garden if you can't go. Volunteer your time. Become involved with more like-minded people. I agree with you, Mithrath. It's more important than anything because you cannot live without it. But if you have all of it, then you're in the best possible position. And I'll tell you something else too, and that is any talent that you have, any physical asset that you have. I mean, magic 8-ball, right? That is all barterable. The difference between your food, and that's certainly barterable, right? The difference between your food and my silver, because that's what I would use to buy food, is that your food has a shelf life. My silver does not have a shelf life. So it is more universal. If you have blueberries and I have strawberries and you're allergic to strawberries, but I want your blueberries and you want watermelon, I have to go and find somebody that has a watermelon that wants strawberries in order to barter with him, get that watermelon to swap it for your blueberries. It's simply that silver is more universal and it does not have a shelf life. So you do it all. That's all. You just get as much of it together as possible. But for those of you out there that say, well, I can't afford gold or I can't afford silver, do you have some skill sets? How about learning some skill sets? Because frankly, even though I have learned how to lay irrigation, and if I really had to do it, I could do it. And that is a barterable skill. Do I want to do it? No. I'd rather you do it. And then, by the way, if you come and help us, I mean, you'd go home with a bunch of food. So that's how you do it. I agree with you, Mithras, but I also say you got to have everything, if you can, or you got to have that community around you. And globally, because we talked about this earlier, that's the importance of getting the global community to just convert their garbage fiat, their garbage government money into sound money, gold and silver. Because if we can get 3% of the population to do that, I don't know, but maybe we will have the ability to get sound money back in the system again. Must be redeemable, and that's what I'm fighting for, because that is what gives the public back their power. We need to take our power back. We really need to do that. And you need food because you can't live without it, but you need freedom. And freedom is not free. You got to fight for it. You ready to join me? And Pandemonium asks, if central banks are declaring 4 times less gold than what they truly have, allowing them to buy it cheap, are they confessing unintentionally that gold's true price is much higher? Just by the level of gold buying that they're doing, because who knows more about what they're doing to the fiat money than they do. So yeah, and when they say we need inflation, they're saying that the dollar, or wherever you are in the world, that currency is overvalued. That's what that really means. So when President Trump says we need to lower those interest rates to stimulate the economy, what he's really saying is this is overvalued, and we need to take its value down by growing more debt, by creating more dollars. But that also means that all of those dollars that are already out there, or euros or yen, wherever you are, they lose more value. The more of this stuff that's created, the less value everything out there has. So better have gold. You better have silver. You want sound money. It's just that simple. And Terrafin asks, how can they take gold or silver bullion coin away? They can just declare that it's illegal to hold more than a certain amount of it. And here in the U.S., it's not true all over the world, but here in the U.S., most of the gold, if people even own gold, is held in IRAs. And so it's real easy to say, okay, it's now illegal to hold more than 5 ounces of gold. Those administrators are not going to go, oh, wait, we're protecting our clients over you, the government. I mean, you got to comply. They're the boss. Unless we take our power back, right? This is why I want to take our power back, one of the reasons. So, yeah, they can just declare it and pay you whatever the market. It's those eminent domain laws. They can take your house. They can go in. They can take all the food off my property if that's what they want to do. They can take President Obama did that when he was in office. I don't remember the name of the law. I'd have to go back and look it up. But basically, he can come in here right now and he can take the government can, I should say. They can take anything they want. They can take everything. They can take all of my food. They can take all of my vehicles. All they have to do is declare a state of emergency and that they need what you have, and they can take it. Eminent domain laws. They have to pay you fair market. But if they to the earlier question, central banks know that the gold and silver are severely undervalued. And they easily manipulate the price because look at how much gold they've bought. A lot, more than ever since they started tracking it. But yeah, they just declare it. It's pretty disgusting. Let's have a revolution, a peaceful, quiet revolution. All you have to do is convert your fiat into gold and silver. That'll protect your freedom and it'll take your power back. And that's also why I only do collectibles and I don't do bullion, because that is much less likely to be confiscated. I can't sit here and tell you that it wouldn't, because they can do anything they want. But now I'm in the same category as that $30 million coin. That's what I want. And Pandemonium asks, for those who already bought some bullion, do you know if it's possible to transform them into jewelry? 100%. I'm not wearing it today, but there are bezels. So there are these pieces, and you stick the coins in there, and they become a necklace or a bracelet or a ring. Yeah, just go to any jeweler and get a bezel, and you can turn your coins into jewelry. And then that puts them in a different category. So, yep, good thought. Thank you for bringing that up, Pandemonium. And Pandemonium also says, thank you for answering my question. What are the odds of avoiding an overt confiscation according to your magic 8 ball on your right? Okay, let's ask it. Okay, so the question is, what are our odds of avoiding an overt confiscation? Ask again later. You want me to try it one more time? I'll try it one more time. Okay. What are the odds of avoiding an overt confiscation? Outlook good. And that's as good a guess as anything else. But I like to hedge my bet, and I had my experience with Uncle Al. And, and you guys, you have to understand, this is where I've lived my life. So I have a higher level of comfort than most people do, and a much higher level of experience than most people do. And that's one of the reasons, as a main reason, why I say I've been born for this moment in time. And I think that's it for today. This was a great session. Fabulous questions. I promise I will work on, I'm going to have to do it in between my regular work, but I am really going to show you why I've come to the conclusions that I've come to about this. Then whatever you want to do with that information is entirely up to you. And I got to tell you, you can't think that there's only one way or only one opinion. I think you need to listen to everything, and you need to do your own due diligence and research and come to the conclusions that make the most sense for you. I give you the links on all of the work that I do so you can see at least some of what I'm looking at. If you draw a different conclusion, I promise you, I will support your right to have that conclusion because I want freedom for everybody. There should not be just one way to think or one way to do it, but I also believe in diversification. So if you believe in this, that's great. You have a little bit of this. What if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? Let's do stuff that doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Then you can rock and roll hoochie coo. And honestly, I'm not a speculator, and that's why, and I also know how they make these transitions, and that's why I haven't bought into this while I've been watching it forever and ever and ever, and being a technician with breakouts and all that stuff. I can't sit here and tell you to do anything different than I'm doing for myself, because then I would not be inside of my integrity. And that's critically important to me. I mean, that's worth everything. So until next we meet, thank you guys so much for being here and showing up. And I really appreciate the questions. Keep them coming, and they can be on anything. And until next we meet, let's join hands in a global community. Join the Sound Money movement. Let's get this done. And in the meantime, be safe out there. Bye-bye.